Hello. Hi. How are you doing?
Hi, hi. Hello, everyone. We'll start soon. Just waiting for everyone to join.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, hi Arjun.
Hey.
Welcome.
Hello, sir.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Okay, we have people joining in. I think we can be on time and we can start. We have almost 26 people here, and I can see more and more people joining along the way. Arjun, good to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Hey everyone, this is Mitu here. I lead the incubator at Triple IT Kottayam. This is an Atal incubation center supported by Niti Aayog and under the Atal Innovation Mission. So we do these kind of webinars consistently every month, bringing in experts and practitioners who have done some wonderful work. You might have attended some of the previous webinars that we have done. This is an exciting time for us because Arjun is one of the most resourceful person that you could get, especially in the domain of sales and marketing, growth, and all these spaces. Um, what makes him the right person to talk to you about this is because he has done this multiple times. He is a two-time exit founder, one of the first success stories from the Kerala startup ecosystem. So Arjun started with. I'll give a small brief introduction. Arjun probably might give you a longer one. Arjun started with Profoundus very early on in 2012, 13, that period, and they were one of the first success stories, one of the first exits from Kerala startup ecosystem, somewhere around 2016, with an acquisition by Full Contact Inc., a US-based company. Of course, and naturally, with these kind of acquisitions, there's some sort of vesting period, and so Arjun was with Full Contact for that period, and then he went on to start his next company called Incent, mostly based out of Bangalore, and he got that also acquired by a US company, but this time a much bigger NASDAQ listed company, ZoomInfo. So again, with the same format of vesting period, he was with ZoomInfo as the chief data officer. So you have a resource person who has been a CXO level person at a NASDAQ listed company. And now he's back with his third venture called Docket, which is which exclusively works in the domain of sales for especially founders, and especially it's a tool that I think Arjun will give you a little bit more brief about what Docket is going to be like. But from what I understand, it is an AI-based tool that helps SDRs to enable their sales activities. Arjun can briefly detail in probably along the way. So he is somebody who has done this multiple times. Is I'm sure there's a lot of insights from all these journeys that he can give you in terms of growth and sales and how that becomes the lifeline and blood of an organization. So over to you, Arjun. Thank you so much for taking your time here. Just to let all of you know, Arjun is actually based in US right now. So he's talking to you from US, and Docket has a base mostly in US with a team in India also. So thank you so much, Arjun, taking your time out very early on in the morning in your day. And over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mitu. Thanks a lot for inviting me. It's great to be here. Let me. So I'm in the Eastern time zone right now, at least. I live in Washington, D.C. these days. So it's not early for me. It's actually midday, which is, which is a good thing. But either way, even if it was early, I would have still said yes, because I don't get the chance to do these kinds of interactions a lot anymore. There was a time when I used to do a lot more. But now I, pick here and there when I know, like Mitu and I go way back. And when he invites me for something, I know he would put together a right set of people, right set of event, and then invite me. So I didn't want to miss that opportunity to come and, hopefully talk to you for the next hour. So yeah, I'll give a little bit of a brief background of mine so you understand. I'll add color to everything that Mitu said. And then from there, I can also talk a little bit about what I do at Docket, but those are not the important things. The reason why I'm going to talk about my background is so that you know where I'm coming from. so that you know what to ask and what I could potentially answer. The idea for the next whatever time we have together is to make it useful for you. So for it to be useful for you, you have to ask questions and interact in a way that, you know, I can keep talking. If I go on for like a monologue for 60 minutes, it'll bore you. It's already nighttime. I don't want to make you guys sleep. So I see a couple of intros here. Thank you. Just to get a feel of it, and Mito, you might know the answer to this. What is the kind of crowd that we have? Are these all founders or operators, early team members, investors, academia? Like, what kind of a crowd are we looking at here?
So my belief is these are all very early stage founders. Some experienced folks are also here because they know you have some really good insights to give, so they have also joined. Again, this is we have gone out a public announcement for the webinar, so we
Sure.
have a public crowd, but mostly
Yeah.
people who are in their early stages, I would say 50 to 60%, but some
Awesome.
aspiring entrepreneurs, very few students, if I'm not wrong, who are again looking at entrepreneurship, but some really good experienced folks are also in the mix. From what from the
Yeah.
people that I know and I know personally, I think that's the crowd that we can look at.
Yeah, I also saw a few familiar faces. Thanks a lot for those people to join. Some of you guys might actually, I don't know if whatever I'm going to tell will be useful, and you could probably know this. Some of the faces, at least I know. Thanks a lot for, you know, making the time. So my background, right? I'm from Kerala, obviously. I grew up and I spent most of my life in Kerala until 27. I was fully in Kerala. My hometown is Tiruvalla, and I did my studies and all. I did my college at College of Engineering, Chenganur, graduated in 2010. When I graduated, startup was still like super early in Kerala. You know, there were a few services companies at that time. Product companies, startups were starting to happen, but not very, very far from mainstream. I joined Infosys for 1.5 years and worked there. But even during Infosys, I wanted to do something of my own. Did not really know what that meant in terms of like, what exactly am I, like, what do I want to do? I didn't know. But I ended up resigning after 1.5 years. Three of my batchmates, I invited them over. Hey, let's start something, and all three of them thankfully said yes. And we joined as a team, and we planned for about 9 months. That planning didn't go anywhere, in the sense that those 9 months planning did not really pan out into anything big. But we still planned out for 9 months, resigned, and started our first company, Profounders, back in 2012. This was April of 2012. For the first 2 years, we built 4 products that the way I talk about it is always 4 of them successfully failed. Because every 6 months we would pivot into something else, try things out. For different reasons, it failed. And then the 5th product became a successful one. The 5th product was actually solving a problem that I faced during the sales process of the 4th stage. I can quickly explain. So imagine that, let me pick anybody's name here, like Vinu. Let's say that Vinu and I have a Zoom call after an hour. So I would go to Vinu's profiles and learn about Vinu, right? Just who is Vinu? What is he doing? What is his company? All of that. And it would take me 35 minutes to do that research on an average. So I was like, if I have that problem as a newbie salesperson, maybe there are other people in this world who have the same problem. So let us build a product around that. That product, we named it as Vibe, like positive vibes of a person. Then that started scaling. We went to about 110,000 users. 190 companies use the product in some form or fashion. We rolled out a B2C version, B2B version, a Chrome plugin, like our own SaaS app, plugins to Pipedrive, Zendesk, Freshdesk. The company was doing decently well. From a 4-people team, we grew to 7, 11, 32, 52, 72. I had the fully committed term sheet for my pre-series A round. For that company, I raised a total of $380,000 in one round. For the first 2.5 years, it was bootstrapped. Then I raised that round. I had my pre-series A fully committed term sheet, but at that time, Full Contact, who was an existing partner to the company for about 9 months, they wanted to buy out the company. So it was not a huge exit. It was single-digit millions. I cannot disclose that. Even this is probably not legally. I'm not supposed to even say that, but that's okay. So that we decided to sell the company. The executive team came down to Kerala in February of 2016. We decided to sell the company. It took 6 months to sell the company because the US company buying an Indian company is not easy. We announced August 23rd, and during that process, I understood that this was the first product exit in the history of Kerala, which I had no idea when I was doing it, but during that time, I learned that. It became a big deal. Thankfully, the ecosystem kind of came together and celebrated that event, the first exit of our Kerala ecosystem. Then from there on, that company wanted me to move over to the US to integrate the two companies. So I moved to US in 2017, early 2017, completed the integration, grew the team in India to about 160 people from 72. Changing what Mitu said once, of course, there was a vesting period for us, but I didn't stay for the whole vesting period. I stayed probably less than half of it. I said, I moved on from full contact after 1.5 years. The first vesting was 3 years in total, but I was not there. Moved on, consulted for a bunch of companies in the sales tech, martech, data tech. I did a lot of different, I did strategy consulting, business development consulting, recruitment. That was not a consulting that I did, but I helped companies. M&A consulting, I did a fair amount of mergers and acquisitions and connecting the companies to do acquisitions or acqui-hires and things like that. Then I ended up starting my second company, 2018 October. We started with some other idea called Data Chain. Then in about 5 months, we pivoted into Incent. The name Incent comes from intent and consent of the buyer. So intent and consent of the buyer. It was a buyer-centric conversational chat experience for business-to-business companies. You might know like Drift.com, which recently got acquired by SalesLoft, or like Qualified.com, Intercom. So, we were kind of competing with these companies. We were doing good. We grew to about 35 people, raised 2 rounds, went through Techstars program. We raised a total of $2.7 million. The last one was about $1.9 million seed round. At that time, I was going to get my Series A on Monday, and Henry Schuck, the CEO of ZoomInfo, and I go back because I have consulted for him in the past. He's a really good guy, and he said, "Hey, why don't you come over to the office? I would love to see if there is a potential acquisition here." I went to his office. We spoke from 9 a.m. to like 4:30 p.m. Except at 45 minutes, he had a call. We were in his office, like talking about everything else. I really enjoyed the conversation. He really enjoyed the conversation. And at the end of the day, the next day, basically, he gave me a letter of intent. He was like, "I know you would get your Series A on Monday. I don't want you to go take that meeting. Here is the LOI." So he gave me the LOI. The LOI made sense. It was a pretty good outcome. Again, I cannot tell the exact outcome because of the legally, and this is being recorded, so I cannot tell the outcome. But I can tell you like the first investor, let me put it that way. So the first investor who put about 175,000 in the company, in 2.5 years, about 27 months later, he made $1.9 million out of that investment. If you can do the triangulation around it, you would know a little bit about what is the number. It was a good outcome. And everybody, the founders, the early team members, the investors, everybody made money. The first outcome, although it was a good outcome, founders did not make a lot of money. Investors cashed out in a good way. Founders put back money into the company, thinking that the stock of that company is going to go up, which did not happen. The company still exists. The company hasn't really grown the way we thought it would. But who knows? The company is still around. They are doing some interesting things. We still hold some shares in the company. If they still make it big, we will still hopefully get some good outcome out of it. But the first one, just to be clear, was really good outcome for investors. For founders, it was a decent outcome, not a big outcome. Second one was good from all angles. Then I was with ZoomInfo. Again, at ZoomInfo, I was not really doing the sitting and vesting thing. I'm never a big fan of vesting. So I was at ZoomInfo because I wanted to be at ZoomInfo. The money that would have come to me in about some time was very little. That was not enough to hold me there. But the opportunity was real, right? I went in as the senior vice president. I built out a product for the company that really flew very, very quickly. It became the fastest growing company in the product in the history of the company. ZoomInfo, for those of you who don't know, ZoomInfo is a well-known company in the B2B tech ecosystem. They have clocked about $1.3, $1.25 billion in revenue, I believe, and growing really well. It's a startup that started in 2007 with zero funding. 2014 is when they took the first funding. And now it's a public company. It's widely considered as probably after Salesforce and HubSpot, I would probably put ZoomInfo as the biggest company in the sales tech space. So I went in as the SVP, built out this product that succeeded, and then took over more as the SVP of product and data. Then I did that and then took on even more as the chief data officer. As the chief data officer, the whole data org, like 7 organizations kind of rolled up to me. All the data that ZoomInfo is selling, that some of you might know, that all reported up to me. The data science, the data platform, data research, data strategy, data acquisitions, data product management, all of these teams reported up to me along with the product that I built out. So that was really good, to be part of an executive, to be part of the board meetings of this huge company with huge budget, right? The budgets are like millions of dollars. My org was probably, I don't know, $100 million of annual budget that was being managed. So it was huge. Obviously, there's a lot of structure when you are operating at that level. So that was really amazing learning experience for me in terms of how to operate at scale, how to grow a team and things like that. Then from there, I'm basically a startup guy. So I resigned again and started company Docket August of last year. Henry, CEO of ZoomInfo, is an investor. Alongside, we have a bunch of other really good investors like Foundation Capital is the main lead investor. It's a really good fund. They seeded Netflix, they seeded Solano, and a bunch of really like Eightfold, Jasper. All of these companies are seeded by Foundation Capital. Then Anu Bharadwaj, the president of Atlassian, Loom acquisition, the 975 million Loom acquisition was actually championed by Anu. Anu is an investor. The CMO of SAP, not Julie, this person is JG. He's actually a Malayali. He's an investor. So some really amazing investors. We are still in the early stages, the first set of customers. We have raised about $5.5 million so far. Going for our Series A sometime. We haven't quite decided that. But hopefully, the hope is to build a really big company. So that's the rough background. Let me take a pause here. Any of the points that I mentioned so far, would you want me to double click anywhere, or can you post some of the burning questions that you have into the chat? I have chat open on my right hand side. I see some of the intros. Thank you. Anywhere I should double click, or are there any questions that you have at this point? I know it'll take a moment to type out some of these questions, so I'm going to take 5 seconds to see if people have any questions about anything. One thing that you would have probably noticed in my background is I've been a B2B guy pretty much all throughout my career. I've started as B2B and B2C. How many of you are, how long you need to plan for an exit? I'll come to that. EdTech D2C platform is ready. Okay. Move. Questions are coming. LinkedIn profile is very easy, Chaitanya. Just search for Arjun Pillai, you will find it. Just search. Yes.
Arjun, hi, this is Mansi. Can I ask you a question?
Please.
I'm sorry, I have to put my camera off. I'm with my son. He's sleeping. So quickly, thank you so much. Very impressive journey. Kudos to you. And yes, entrepreneurship bug is something that sits with us no matter how many exits we have. So congratulations on that. Brief background, I have a health tech company. We are it's a B2B2C, so it's through doctors network that we are trying to work with chronic kidney disease patients. So we have developed a SaaS-based model to work with these chronic kidney disease patients and nephrologists. While I'm in the sales process, I've realized that in this area, and in fact in B2B as such, any sales cycle takes time to close. So I'm really curious, how did it work out for you? Because your career trajectory shows exponential growth and fast growth, so how you were able to achieve that, and what were the key points that you kept in mind, so that experience would help us, all of us.
Absolutely. Really good question. So I'll use that question to explain a few things about the early sales process, right? The first thing that startups should think about is, and all the other questions, I'll come to all of them, by the way. So when you are a startup, the first thing that you have to define is, hey, who is my customer segment? In Mansi's case, she said doctors, but you can qualify it a little bit more, right? You just saying doctors is probably not good enough. maybe she already knows, but I'm just using that as an example. The way you explain it is, hey, I am looking at doctors who are living in these locations who have graduated in the last 10 years because they are probably more early adopters than the older doctors who are doing practices like these, who are operating in hospitals like these. So you add a lot more qualifiers to identify your exact customer segment, and you have to do all of that. The concept is called ideal customer persona. This is the first mistake that I see founders doing, right? When I ask them for questions about who do you sell to, they'll say, oh yeah, we sell to B2B companies in United States. I'm like, okay, like there are like 10 million of them. Who are you going to sell? Then they'll say, oh, we do it in New York, or they'll say that we sell it to 200 companies, about 200 people. See, the thing is, there are 5.5 million companies with more than 5 people in US. If you put every company between 200 to 5,000 employees, there are 60,000 companies in US. And if there are 60,000 in US, a rough thumb rule is there is 60,000 outside US. There's like 120,000 companies. The key about making a sales is to make sure that you can identify a customer base that is very, very niche. So the way you explain it is, yeah, I am looking for companies between the employee range of 200 to 2,000 operating in US. They have a marketing function that is at least 5 people. Then they are using existing tools like ZoomInfo or Demandbase. They have a website that has got more than 10,000 monthly visits. And they have had a growth of their employees at least 10% year over year. Now, I just added a bunch of qualifiers, right? So then if you put all of these qualifiers into your data tools, which is ZoomInfo or Apollo or Lucia or any of the tools that you're using, it'll come down to like, let's say 2,000 accounts or 1,000 accounts. That is the right way to do it. Don't go for 60,000 companies. Identify the first 1,000 or 2,000 companies using your ICP. That is the first thing. The second thing and the reason you need to get to this 1,000, 2,000 is then you can find a messaging that lands for these people. You know the problem statement. You can as you have conversations within this 1,000 people or 1,000 companies, you will start seeing patterns. Oh, I heard this problem from company A. I heard the same problem from company B. So that becomes patterns. And as you talk more and more to these kinds of companies, you'll be able to make better impression. Right. So that's very critical when you do early sales. You need to find out those patterns that allows you to make your pitch more relevant to them. Once you identify the company level ICP, then the next thing you need to figure out is who is my buying committee. In almost every B2B buying process, unlike B2C, right? B2C meaning, let's say that I want to buy my, Beats. I'm the buyer. I'm the user. It's my money. I don't have to care about anything. I go look at the website. If I like it, I buy. That's it, right? Most of the B2C buys are impulsive buys. It's an emotional buy. I want it. There's a deal running. I like it. The design looks good. The color looks good. I'm going to buy. That's it. That's B2C. Versus B2B is considered purchase, right? In B2C also, there is considered purchase. If I'm buying a Tesla, it's a considered purchase because I have to spend $100,000 or $90,000 on the car. So that's a considered purchase. But most of B2C is impulse purchase. B2B is always considered purchase. When as the amount goes up, the consideration goes up and the number of people in the buying committee goes up. If it is a thing that you use, like for many of you guys might know Loom, the video recording tool, or Zoom, for example. If you want to buy Zoom, that's probably easy. It's $15 for user. So if you want to buy Zoom on your own card, also it's possible. But if you are trying to buy Salesforce, for example, that's for the whole team, right? Let's say you're a 200 people company. At that point, you have to talk to your VP of sales, the RevOps, the marketing department, maybe the sales enablement, maybe. So there are many, many titles and roles within a company that are part of the buying committee. Depending upon the average contract value that you are selling, the buying committee will be anywhere between 4 people to 15 people. So I'll put some numbers so that it helps you guys. If it is like a $5,000 ACV, then you're probably talking about 2 to 3 to 4 buying committee, people in the buying committee. Once it crosses like 15K, it becomes more like 4, 5, 6. When it gets over 50K, then it becomes 6, 7. And then it goes over 100K, 200K. it goes way more. It can be 10 people, 11 people, whatever. And the sales cycles also get elongated, which is what Mansi's question kind of alluded to. If it is a smaller ACV, then like a $100 a month thing, then it should probably close within 5 days or 10 days. But if you are selling like a $10,000 deal, you can probably take 20 days or 30 days or 40 days max. But if it is the challenge is if there is no alignment here. I see a lot of companies in India who sell for $2,000 a year, but they sell over 60 days. Right? So to make that $2,000 sell, they need 60 days or more. That math would never add up. If you're spending 60 days to close a customer, that customer should at least bring in $25,000. Otherwise, your math won't add up. And I can go into the math and all, but I just want to take another pause here. Does that all make sense so far in terms of ICP, bringing down the ICP with the right qualifiers and then putting the right buying committee on top of it and then having the right ASP for that buyer? What is ICP? Ideal customer persona, which is the qualified thing that I mentioned, right? B2B companies between 200 and 2000, that ideal customer persona. Okay, now let me try to go explain buying committee. Buying committee is the combination of all the buyers in your customer base. So imagine that you are selling a CRM. If you're selling a CRM, you have VP of sales, sales ops, then maybe a couple of your account executives or director of sales, then maybe a head of sales enablement. Depending on the company, maybe CEO is part of the buying committee. So together, this set of people is called as a buying committee. For you to make an effective sell, you have to convince pretty much everybody, or at least get a bunch of people to neutral and then a couple of people to positive. Only then you will be able to make the sell. So that is the biggest difference between a B2C and B2B, where in B2B, you have to multi-thread to talk to multiple people and then make the sell. If Kurian is asking, let's dive there. So if $2,000 takes 60 days, what is the problem? The problem is there's a math for a SaaS to work, right? I'm trying to explain. Okay, let's try to break down the funnel, right, from the start all the way down. And I'm gonna use there's a book called Predictable Revenue. In case you guys haven't read the book, it's a good read for early sales processes. Predictable Revenue is a pretty good book. The way Predictable Revenue explains it is, let's imagine that you are a B2B company and you want to make a sell. And you have to first generate meetings, and then you have to close those meetings into sales, and then you have customers, right? So those are let's say the three phases. Now, at the SDR level, meaning the people who are generating the meetings, they are called as SDR, Predictable Revenue. Predictable Revenue is the name of the book. There you go. Everything that I'm saying, I guess, Mintu can probably put in there. he knows all of these things. So yeah, the people who are generating the leads, they are typically called as SDRs, Sales Development Representatives or Business Development Representatives. What they do is they send emails, they message people on LinkedIn, they make phone calls, and generate meetings for you. Now, the thing about these SDRs is there's only a finite number of meetings that an SDR can generate every month, right? There's only so much time. Now, let's take 2000 as an example, is your ACV, and I'll explain why it wouldn't work. Kurian, imagine that you have 2000 as your average selling price. Imagine that in a year, you have to hit $1 million in revenue. Before I explain, one of the other things you should know is in the best run B2B sales, B2B SaaS companies, once a company hits $1 million, in the next 5 years, the revenue has to triple twice and double thrice. So if you're at million today, then you have to go from million to 3 million to 9 million to 18 million to 36 million to 72 million. Or it could be in any order, but it has to triple twice and double thrice in the first 5 years. This is the best SaaS companies. This is like a Slack and a Dropbox. There are worse companies and there are better companies now. A company called Wiz, I think. Wiz went from 0 to $100 million in about 1.5 years, which is crazy. That's like super difficult. But there are all kinds of stories. But that is what good looks like. If you go from 1 to 72 million in 5 years, that is what good looks like. So that is the targeting that you need to. That's the way in which you have to target the revenue. Now imagine that you want to go from, let's say, 100K to $1 million, right? And you have to get there in 12 months. That is your revenue target. Now, for you to get to $1 million at $2,000 ACV, let's start to do the math, right? You have to do divided by 2,000. So you have to do 500 deals at $2,000 to get to $1 million. So if you have to do $500 in 12 months, then every month you have to do 42 deals, right? I'm not counting churn and things like that. If customer leaves and all, I'm not counting any of that. Let's just make it simple. 42 deals you have to close. Now, if you have to close 42 deals, how many deals do you have to talk to? How many demos you have to run? Let's say 42, like your conversion is a very good conversion. The best conversion is about 25% from demo to close, right? Opportunity to close is 25%. So Chaitanya is saying 420. What is 420? If there are small numbers, math, issues, don't worry about it. I'm not trying to give you the exact math. I'm just trying to give you the breakdown of how the system works. So, 42 deals you have to close every month for you to get to 500 deals a year. If you have to get to 42 deals, then you have to do 42 into 4, 25% conversion. You need to do 168 opportunities a month. And typically, if you get a lead, if you have a good model, then 70% of that will convert into an opportunity. So if you need 168 opportunities, you roughly need about 200 leads at the top. So for you to close $1 million at $2,000, you need 200 leads every single month at the top of the funnel. And now imagine that you are putting an SDR in place, right? An SDR can probably do on an average, if a good SDR, 15 to 20 meetings. That's like a really good output, right? If an SDR is really good, then they are going to generate 20 leads max every month. So if you need 200 leads, then you need 10 really good SDRs, but more like you need 12 SDRs. So you need 12 SDRs to generate the kind of meetings that you need. Now, for you to have these 200 demos, how many account executives do you need? You need a ton of them, because on an average, somebody can handle like 5 demos a week. So if you need 200 meetings, by the way, calls won't get closed in 1 meeting. If it is 60 days, it is probably 3 meetings. So every opportunity will be like into 3. So 200 meetings is more like 600. I mean, the math is already getting out of hand. You guys might actually struggle to follow this also. But my point is, for a company to have 600 meetings a month, you need roughly 600 divided by 20. You need 30 account executives and you need 12 SDRs, all kicking at full capacity for you to generate $1 million. So you already need 45 people to generate like $1 million. And $1 million, if you spread 1 million by 45 is a very small number. You won't even get enough money to pay their salaries, right? That's why this math wouldn't work out. So for an SDR account executive model to work out, the ACV should at least be $10,000. Ideally, it should be $18,000. In India, the salary is not that high. So even with 10K, 12K, you can make it work. So if your ACV is very low, like a $2,000, you should never follow a sales-led model. You have to follow a product-led model or a marketing-led model, wherein somebody is going to find you, somebody is going to sign up and then start using the product. At some point, they are going to get converted into the paid subscriber. That is the only way to convert $1,000, $2,000 per year kind of contracts. You cannot put like a salesperson to do it. It won't scale. Okay, at the initial stage, how to overcome finding the right customer? Where can I find the right customer? How long one need for? Okay, so let me try to answer one by one. Initial stage, how to overcome finding the right customer. See, the way for you to find your best customer today is LinkedIn, especially if you are trying to get your first 5 to 10 customers. Try to go cold outbound, and the cold outbound should be a combination of email, LinkedIn, and cold call. Buy any tool. These are not that expensive today. You will get a tool for like $100 a month. and you will be able to do all email, LinkedIn, and call. All the data will be available there. So you, especially in the early first 5 customers, first 10 customers, you don't even need a scalable process. You as the founder can do it. You just go to LinkedIn, put the right ICP, put the right buying committee, put that into your sales navigator, start engaging with them. Read about how to send good cold emails. There are some really good people that you can follow. What was I can send you some names. I'm trying to remember. There are some really amazing people on LinkedIn who, if you follow, they can give you like cold emailing, cold messaging advices. They post on an ongoing basis. Jordan is a friend. Jordan Crawford is a really good guy. He's a friend. There are a few people actually. There is Sam Nelson. I can send a list actually. There are a bunch of people who you can follow. The key is to keep the message very brief and talk more about the problems that they face. Something like, "Hi Shubham, in 2024, is account executive efficiency a priority for you? Are you thinking about introducing AI to make sure that your account executives perform 30% better than they already are? Question mark. Thank you." Very brief, just talking about the problem. Then you follow that up, right? In about 4 days time, you follow that up and saying that, hey, just saying at Docket, we help CROs improve their account executive efficiency by giving a virtual sales engineer using AI. I would love to show it to you. Can we chat 15 minutes? So you follow it up, right? So slowly you engage with them enough. Typically, it is said that in today's world, you have to touch base with a prospect 8 to 13 times, somewhere between 21 days to 29 or 30 days. You have to touch the prospect like 13 times or 8 times, somewhere between 8 to 13. When I say 8 to 13, it doesn't mean 13 emails. People will kill you if you send 13 emails in 25 days. The way to do it is it's a triple touch campaign, right? You start with an email, go to LinkedIn, send a connection request, send a message, view the profile, send another email, make a cold call, leave a voicemail, reach back on email again, so you stack it out in a way that 13 touches are happening in about 25 to 26 days. You will be able to start generating. This is another mistake that founders who don't understand the sales methodology make. They do like one email, maybe follow it up like once or twice, and they'll be like, oh, they are not responding, I'm just going to drop it. You cannot. You have to keep doing that without irritating them a lot. People are okay with receiving cold emails, at least in US. You should even try to make cold calls. Calls is a big deal. You will be able to reach the person and have a conversation. If, again, when I say calls, it's not like 5 calls, right? We are talking about you have to do roughly 200 calls a week to kind of make the thing about this is I can probably promise, and if any of you exceed this, you have to tell me. In my experience, I have never seen a company do this. Per day, you have to do 150 activities if you have to generate initial sales. 150 activities. When I say 150 activities, it could be sending, so you prospect and find about 30 companies, let's say. Per day, you are going to hit 30 companies. You have 1,000 companies that you have identified, right? You're going to pick the 30 and then you're going to prospect them. In every company, we talked about the buying committee. So in every company, you have like 4 to 5 people. So in 30 companies, you have roughly 120 to 150 people to send an email to, right? Even if you just take 10 companies, you have 50 people to email to. If you sent 50 emails today, then and make 50 calls today, then the follow-up from yesterday is also coming in today. So on an average, you have to have continuously 150 activities every single day for you to have any chance of getting the initial customers. I can argue, promise, certify that most of the people on this call are probably doing somewhere between 10 to 20 activities maximum a day. That is why you are not closing. Everybody who you think is closing, somebody was saying, I have done back in the day with my first company, I would wake up every single day. This was back in 2014 time. I had free LinkedIn, not even Sales Navigator, no money at that time. So I would wake up every day. I would send 150 LinkedIn requests. And at this point, I don't have a product. I just have some mock-up that I can show, like a hard-coded demo. So I would send 150 LinkedIn requests. I would spice up my LinkedIn and send 150 LinkedIn requests. Out of the 150 requests, roughly 60 to 75 would accept. 60 to 75, I would send a message. Out of that, roughly 10 to 15 would message back. And I would get out of the messaging back, I would respond to those. I would get 1 to 2 meetings. So I start every day at 150 LinkedIn connection request. I would book at least 1 meeting, sometimes 2 meetings. I did that for 30 days and I booked 50 to 60 meetings in that time. Out of that 60 meetings, I converted 4 of them into my customers. Right? That's all I did. But I did that every single day. I woke up at 7 a.m., go to LinkedIn, send 150 connection requests to a point where LinkedIn started telling me that you are getting many I don't know answers from LinkedIn. You got to be careful. Otherwise, we will suspend your LinkedIn. And LinkedIn suspended my LinkedIn once for like 24 hours. That's okay. It doesn't matter. You have to do what it takes to get there. I have no documented playbook. The good thing is this is getting recorded. So Mitu, please share this back to me. I think I'm doing a fairly decent job explaining this on this call. We can make this into a documented playbook for people. What else can I answer? There's obviously a lot more I can talk about pretty much in any direction that you point me. I can talk more and more. I want to quickly answer one question from Venkata Subramanian. How long do you plan for exit? In my world, we don't plan for an exit. Exit happens. In all of my cases, in both of my cases, I was not trying to sell. I was looking to build and grow the business, and the business was doing fairly well. It was an incoming interest, and in both cases I did not even talk to multiple buyers. One buyer came in, they said something, and I negotiated with them. I got to a deal that I found to be good. I sold the company. But if you want to plan for an exit, you need about 18 months for that plan. The way to plan for an exit is take what stage you are in. At any given point in time, you should have a list of 5 to 10 potential acquirers for your company and be talking to those companies. That's the way you get if you want to sell. So if you are like $1 million company, then companies that are typically going to acquire you will be in the 10 million, like the 50 million revenue range companies, right? So you make a set of that, you talk to their CEO, CFO, or those people, have a relationship with them, ideally partner with them in some form or fashion if you guys have complementary offerings. Then if you get to 10 million, then the 50 million revenue company cannot acquire you. At that point, you have to go for more like the 200 million revenue company that can acquire you. Then you make a list of, so like my company was small, it was just about $1 million in revenue. So ZoomInfo was a really good acquirer for us, but Salesforce wouldn't buy me. For Salesforce, I'm too small. But if I run, let's say, like a 50 million revenue company, then Salesforce could potentially acquire me, or 100 million or a 500 million. Then yeah, absolutely, Salesforce can acquire me. So at any given point in time, you have a set of ideal acquirers for you. You need to know who they are. Ideally, you should be in touch with them. You should be talking with them over a period of time. In ideal cases, they will say, hey, would you like to come in full time? We'll acquire you, and then let's build this together. If you get that incoming offer, those are the best deals. That's where you have leverage and you can ask for a price and negotiate and get the best deal for you. Okay. In India, one of the problems founders face is prospects compare the ACV of software with how many employees they can hire. Yeah. So see, the best way to close deals is to have ready-made answers for all of these questions. What Aman posted here is one of the objections, right? Think of everything coming from a buyer as an objection. Hey, we don't have people to support this project. Hey, we don't have budget for this project. Hey, we can build this in-house. We just bought a competitor, or we are considering a competitor. This quarter is not the right quarter for us. You can name it. You have all heard of this. These are called as objections. And for all of these objections, there is a corresponding objection handling. That's what you call it. So you need to have documented objection handling for every objection that you have ever heard of. So this one, Aman, is for me for Docket. This comes up quite often, right? Because ChatGPT is there, OpenAI is there. People think that by simply using OpenAI, you can build a Docket equivalent. And they'll say, oh, we can simply use ChatGPT to build this in-house. And I have like a full document of like 4 pages that talks about build versus buy. and I go into full detail. It's properly documented. It is properly designed. It takes care of, the time invested, the ROI, the justification, everything is documented. I'll just say, I'll explain the objection handling on the call, and I will send this document as a follow-up. So during the sales call, there are a few things that will keep coming up. Let's say the discovery questions. I'll give this small breakup of, we talked a little bit about SDRing activity and all. Now let's talk about the sales call, right? I'm doing a call with. There are a few elements of a sales call. The first element of the sales call is the discovery questions. Discovery questions are the questions that you ask to make sure what are the problems that the customer have. Are these problems the ones that you can solve? Which are the features that you have that are relevant in this conversation, and how pressing these problems are. So if you do a really, really, really good job in your discovery, you make half of your sell happen right in that discovery set of conversation. Because basically you are asking them to tell you their problems. And as they tell their problems, they are, without knowing, they are telling themselves to, oh, here are all the problems they have. Here is why my life is very difficult. Every day morning, I have these problems. I'm not able to track my KPIs. I'm not able to report on my KPIs. Like, all of these are my problems, right? So they open it up. Everybody likes talking about themselves and their problems. That is what humans are good at. So you give them a chance to talk about their problems through discovery questions. You get those answers. That is where okay, here are the things that Me2 cares about. Now, here is how I have to position my solution. That's the first part. Secondly, then you have the other mistake that founders do is, I have a knife or a hammer. Let's say I have a hammer. So I'm going with a hammer looking for a nail, right? Everything is about my hammer. People don't care whether you have a hammer or a knife. They just care about their problems, not your solution. So don't talk product to the customer. Always talk solution to the customer. And to talk solution to the customer, you need to know the problems of the customer, which is why discovery comes in. Once you do discovery, you know the problems. Now you position your product and features as solutions to those potential problems. You make that fit. This is where founders are really good at it, right? Or should be good at it. Unlike a salesperson who does not know the details of how to make that connection, founders must be good at taking a problem and then converting that into your solution. So that is the second phase of your sales call. Then comes in there, they'll have a bunch of questions. And during you answer those questions, maybe you can even document the answers to those questions. Then comes the objections. Right? Objections will come. There will always be like 5 to 6 common objections that you hear. If you do enough customer calls, you will absolutely have a pattern of objections. You need to have ready-made answers for every single objection. You need to have examples. I give examples like, oh, yeah. About, roughly 30% of my customers try to build chat using chat GPT. And very quickly, what they will realize is they can do demo. 70% accurate answers will come up in about 4 weeks time. And after that, to go from 70 to 90, it is impossible, right? And I'll give them examples of companies which have done that and have failed, all of that, right? And I'll give them videos of in-house versus docket compared. And I have videos and I've documented all of these things. So you handle objections. That's a key part of the sales call. Then there is the ROI and justification. You need to help your champion go in and negotiate on your behalf. Think about this for a moment, right? 99% of the conversation happening about whether they should buy your product happens without you being in that room. They are talking amongst themselves about whether they should buy Docket. I'm not in that room at that point. So what I have to do is I have to give my champion, whoever is the most interested party, enough talking points so that they are going to represent me in the best way possible within that room when I am not there. And for that, I have to give him a slide, a master deck, an infographic, whatever it is, ROI justification, right? How can he explain to his CFO? Because I'm not going to be able to getting a meeting with their CFO. How is that person going to tell CFO that $1 that CFO is going to put to Docket, they are going to get it back as $4? I need to give a justification. Here is how much time account executives are spending to go through and find answers. Here is how much time they are spending to fill out an RFP. If we use Docket, it's going to come down to 10% of where it is right now. We have 100 people account executive team. If we save 5 hours of them every day, 5 hours is $50 for an account executive. So just 100 account executive is like $5,000 a day savings for us. I'm making this up, but you get the point. So you need to have ROI, value prop, and justifications ready to go. These are all. Finally, after every sales call, you should ask for next steps. Absolutely. This is another place where founders fail. They'll talk about everything and they're like, okay, good to see you. That's it. You should absolutely have a next step. What is the next step? Are you going to send a proposal? Are you going to schedule a meeting? Who are the other people who should be part of the call? What does the timeline look like? Do they have budget? Who are the other people who should be in the room to take the decision? Are there competitors that they are considering? You need to know all of these answers, and you should ask all these questions on the call and set up the next step, whatever that is, on the call. Many of my calls, the way I do it is if I have like 2-3 minutes, I'll say, are we doing a next call? They'll say, okay, yeah, let's do a next call. I want to bring in a couple of my folks and let them see doc. And I'm like, okay, what time works for you? And I'll open up my calendar on my split screen and I'll say, what time works for you? And he'll be like, and I'll say, how about next Thursday? They're like, okay, next Thursday works. How about 3 p.m.? They're like, okay, let me check. So he will go and check his team's calendar and like, yeah, 3 p.m. will work. I'm like, can I do 45 minutes instead of 30 so that we can go deeper? And they're like, yeah, 45 minutes will work. I sent so right before I end the first call, my second follow-up call is on the calendar. If I don't do that, it is a week going back and forth on emailing to just schedule that call, right? Your sales cycle is just elongated by a week. If I do the setting up the meeting on that call, my sales cycle came down by a week, right? Again, I'm going, but these are all pieces of those sales calls. Each of the topic that I'm talking about is a workshop by itself, like 3 hours each. So I'm trying to cram as much as I can into the brief time. Okay, so I'm okay. Let me try to get through all these questions. Okay, as a first-time founder in India, what might be the minimum sales I should look forward if I want to be a solopreneur focusing on a B2B product? Minimum. See, how much is your expense? If you are a person with 1 lakh rupee a month expense, then you need 12 lakhs to live a year, right? After your expenses of the product, you probably need 15 lakhs. So that's how much you need to live comfortably. If you're a solopreneur, that's how much you need. As your expense goes up, as you have a family, as you have a kid, you have to sell more. That's about it. The good thing about SaaS is if you made $100 last year, $10 might go churn, but you still have $90. And if you get another $100 this year, you now have $190 instead of, in a services company or in a supermarket, if you do $100 every year, you just have $100 that year. But SaaS, it compounds very, very quickly. And that's why SaaS is like amazing. So if you're a solopreneur doing small things on SaaS, it wouldn't take a lot to grow to $200, $500 million in revenue. Personal question: what was your motivation to grind every day? And this is my life, man. I have to make it work. There are 3 of my co-founders, 7 of the other team members who are all trusting that there's the CEO guy who will figure it out. He knows the answers. He will figure it out. I have no idea. So the only thing that was don't look at the religious connotation on it, but there's a word in Gita, Bhagavad Gita. It kind of goes along. I don't have to go say the Sanskrit. What it actually means is the only thing that you can control is your activity, right? You want good marks, you want good sleep, you want company to succeed, you want to raise investment. Those are all end results. You have zero control on it. If you want good marks, you can study. If you want to get sales, you can do your activity. That is the only thing that you can control, right? So as a founder, I can only control in totality in our startups. There is probably 25 to 30% of the things that we control. We don't control the macro. We don't control the competition. We don't control the investment. None of this we control. The real thing that you can focus on is the activity. Every day, morning to evening, what the heck are you going to do, right? That is what I have in control. I'm going to overwork than everybody on this call to a point where I make my sales. That's it. That's my motivation. Back then, second company. Now I will overwork more than any of you. You guys can try to overwork me. Then I'll work even harder. That's the only thing I have in control. That's my motivation. Most people make the mistake of talking more during the first or second call. Those are critical. Exactly. Yeah. Talk less, hear more. Always in life, in sales, that's the best thing. We face customer not opening up about their problems. Most of the time, we find them in denial. That's the problem with discovery question. One of the hacks you can do with any of the things that I mentioned is to go to ChatGPT, talk about who you are, right? I am running a B2B startup in the edtech domain. I'm the founder of the company. My ideal customer is blah, 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 blah. What are the discovery questions that I can ask? Press enter. ChatGPT is going to give you a set of questions. Many of those questions you are like, oh, these are very simple questions, but I have never asked these questions before, right? So use AI and ChatGPT as a really good brainstorming assistant for you. And I think you are going to get some really interesting questions from there that you can use to ask. See, people won't be in a denial. If you force a problem on them, they are going to be in denial. If they open up, they won't be in denial. It's about, see, everything that I am talking about today, there is a very high amount of art to it. There's a process, but there's also an art to it. The more you practice, you get better at it. The first time you draw a house, the house will look, yeah, whatever. But the next time you draw a house, the 100th time you draw a house, the house is going to look way better. The same thing will happen in sales also. Or any reading suggestions, training to get better? Like predictable revenue is good. There are a lot of LinkedIn good people who you should follow. Other than that, just do it, man. There isn't a ton, Anurag, that I mean, I'm sure there are, like, you can read Traction as a book. I think that's good. Reading about sales methodologies, I think, is very good. Like, there are sales methodologies. There's a book called Challenger Sale, I think. It's very good. There are sales methodologies like Spin, Challenger Sale, Medic, MedPick. There are a bunch of sales methodologies. If you go to ChatGPT, anything that I'm telling you, you can go to ChatGPT and find more information about everything that I'm telling you. Let's say customer will not buy a recurring license because their organization decision since affects. A series that effect. What is the valuation investors take on? Oh, recurring versus one time, there's a big difference in the valuation that you are going to get. For recurring revenue in early stage of the company, you can argue for like a 10 times your revenue or a little bit more than that, depending on your growth. So if you have like $1 million, you can come ask for like a 10 million valuation, maybe a little less, a little bit more, but in that vicinity. But if for the same million, if it is not recurring, then the next question is, how much are you making in profits? Then you say it is 300K in profits out of the million. Then it'll be more like, oh, 300K in profits, EBITDA. So it'll be like maximum 6 times of the profit. So that'll be like 1.8 million in valuation. So it's a huge difference between the 10 million valuation that a SaaS will get versus 1.8 million. That's the highest valuation that a services slash one-time companies would get. The reason is the compounding effect that I mentioned. Guys, I got to run now. I have a customer call. I'm talking to a company in a minute, so I really have to rush now. I wish I had a little bit more time, but I got sandwiched in the call. But hopefully this was helpful, in whatever little time that we had. I wanted to get some of these questions answered, but sorry.
Hey Arjun, thank you so much. I understand we have a very limited time. Thankfully, we got to start this on time. So I won't hold you more. Thank you so much for being here. I'll try to get these questions in an email or something and then try to share it with all the people.
Yeah, happy to. I'll try to record answers on a Loom or something and send them out. And please share the video too. I think it's a good video.
Yes.
If I put it on my LinkedIn, more people will get benefited.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Hopefully it was helpful. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to help in whatever shape or form. When you are reaching out to me on a message, just make sure that it's a specific question, something like, hey, I have this, I want to get here. How do I do this? Instead of that, don't ask like, hey, I want to raise money. What do I do? Like, I cannot help. That's too generic for me to help. So ask a specific question, and I would love to see, if there's anything I can be of help. Thank you. All the best. Doing startup is hard. You guys have all started down that journey. The learning is going to be amazing. Hustle, 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 150 activities a day, and you will find the results. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you all for being here. Hope you had a wonderful session. Keep following our social media. We'll keep up coming with some interesting webinars in the future also. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here on a very late night on a weekday. See you next time. Bye bye.
हे आता कॉपी कसं करू ग बेटा?